The Philippines is positioning itself as a key link in global supply chains with a proposed high-tech industrial hub in Luzon under a new plan with the United States.
A factory floor in the Netherlands. It looks like something out of a science fiction film. Clean rooms the size of football fields. Workers in full bodysuits. Machines the size of small houses that took decades and billions of dollars to build, doing something no other machine on Earth can do. Printing circuits onto silicon at a scale smaller than a virus. This is ASML, the Dutch company that manufactures extreme ultraviolet lithography machines. The only machines in the world capable of making the most advanced semiconductor chips. ASML makes roughly 50 of these machines per year. Every cutting-edge chip in your phone, your laptop, every AI data center in the world, it ran through a machine made in Veldhoven, the Netherlands. There is exactly one company in the world that can build them. China has been trying to get its hands on these machines for over a decade. Washington has been preventing that transfer for nearly as long. And in December 2025, the United States formalized what had been a loose network of export controls and bilateral agreements into something far more deliberate, far more ambitious, and far more consequential. They named it Pax Silica. On April 17, 2026, the Philippines just signed on. Welcome to the Indo-Pacific Report. What you're about to hear is not just a trade story. This is the architecture of the next world order. And Luzon just became its first construction site. To understand what happened in Manila, you need to go back about 35 years. Around 1990, Deng Xiaoping, the architect of China's modern economy, reportedly made an observation that the Chinese state has quietly built its entire resource strategy around ever since. The quote, often attributed to him, goes something like this: "The Middle East has oil. China has rare earths." He was right. China today controls approximately 60% of the world's rare earth production and over 85% of its processing capacity. These are the elements, neodymium, terbium, dysprosium, that go into electric motors, wind turbines, military guidance systems, and semiconductor manufacturing equipment. You cannot build a chip fab without them. You cannot build an advanced military without them. For 30 years, the global technology industry looked at this concentration and shrugged. Efficiency was the principle. China was cheap, fast, and integrated. Why duplicate what already existed? Then COVID happened. Semiconductor shortages shut down car factories in Michigan and electronics assembly in Taiwan. Supply chains that had been optimized for calm weather shattered in the first real storm. And Washington finally started asking, what happens if this disruption is not an accident, but a choice? Jacob Hellberg, the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Economic Affairs and the chief architect of Pax Silica, put it plainly: if the 20th century ran on oil and steel, the 21st century runs on compute and the minerals that feed it. Whoever controls the semiconductor supply chain, the minerals, the manufacturing equipment, the chip design, the fabrication, the packaging, controls the foundational infrastructure of artificial intelligence. And whoever controls AI controls the economy, the military, and the political leverage of the next 50 years. This is the world Pax Silica was built to shape. This is the question worth sitting with. Why the Philippines? The standard answer is geography. Luzon sits at the northern end of the Philippine archipelago, directly astride the shipping lanes connecting Northeast Asian manufacturing hubs, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, with the Indian Ocean and the global market. It is geographically central to the Indo-Pacific in a way that very few locations are. But geography alone doesn't explain this. The more precise answer is that the Philippines has a long, underappreciated history in the global electronics supply chain. The country is already a significant producer of semiconductors and electronics. Manila and its surrounding regions have hosted electronics assembly and packaging operations for decades. The workforce is young. The Philippines has one of the youngest median ages in Southeast Asia, technically capable and English-speaking. Labor costs remain competitive relative to East Asian manufacturing centers. The State Department's announcement was explicit about this. It described the Philippines as a nation that brings to Pax Silica key capabilities and human talent in technology manufacturing, including semiconductors and electronics. There is also the geopolitical dimension, and it cannot be understated. The Philippines is a treaty ally of the United States under the Mutual Defense Treaty. The Luzon Economic Corridor already exists as a trilateral U.S.-Japan-Philippines infrastructure investment framework. Both Washington and Tokyo have been systematically building out this corridor for precisely the reason that it provides economic and strategic depth inside the first island chain, close enough to the South China Sea to matter, allied enough to be trusted. Let's talk about what a 4,000-acre industrial zone actually means, because the numbers are easy to say and hard to visualize. 4,000 acres is roughly 1,620 hectares, larger than many mid-sized cities. The announcement describes it as an economic security zone, a new designation that doesn't yet exist in Philippine law but is being created specifically for this purpose. The phrase AI native in the official description is significant. This is not a repurposed 1990s export processing zone being dressed up with new language. The intent is to design this facility from the ground up around the infrastructure demands of the AI era: power generation, data center capacity, cooling, precision manufacturing, and logistics. The site is intended to serve as a staging point for a purpose-built platform for allied manufacturing, an investment acceleration hub where the specific industrial activities are shaped by market demand, host-country comparative advantages, and the evolving needs of the Pax Silica network. More importantly, the State Department described the Luzon hub as explicitly the rest of many. This interconnection can transform Pax Silica industrial policy from a collection of bilateral projects into a genuine system capable of competing with and ultimately displacing the concentrated supply chains on which the world currently depends. That last phrase is the most important one. This is not a hedge against Chinese supply chain dominance. It is an attempt to replace it. The Atlantic Council, in analysis published just 2 days ago, noted that for Pax Silica to succeed, it will need more than hubs. It will need skilled worker mobility agreements, mutual recognition of technical credentials, and jointly funded workforce training programs. The hardware is necessary, but so is the human capital to run it. The Philippines, with its 115 million people and expanding technical education sector, is being positioned to supply a significant share of that capital. Now let's hear what the other side is saying. Because China is paying attention. Chinese analysts, including those writing for the Global Times, have been notably blunt in their assessment of Pax Silica. One industry expert summarized the critique this way: the move is essentially aimed at decoupling from China in the global semiconductor supply chain, and it is unlikely to succeed due to China's deep level of integration. The deeper concern, expressed by multiple analysts, is that fragmenting the semiconductor supply chain will raise costs, reduce economies of scale, and create economic friction that ultimately harms everyone, including Pax Silica members. Deng Xiaoping's rare earth leverage was built over 3 decades of patient accumulation. The United States is now attempting to build a counter-architecture in a fraction of that time. Whether they can move fast enough is the central question. Here is the larger frame. What we are living through right now is the end of a 30-year era. The era that began when the Berlin Wall fell, when the assumption was that economic integration would soften geopolitical competition. That trade would replace conflict. That interdependence was strength. That assumption is dead. The CHIPS Act killed it. Pax Silica buried it. The Luzon Economic Security Zone is building on top of it. What is replacing it is something we don't have a fully clean name for yet. Call it allied industrial statecraft. The deliberate coordination of manufacturing capacity, supply chain geography, and investment ows among a coalition of countries that have decided, collectively, that economic security and national security are the same thing. And the Philippines is now formally part of this new architecture, not as a passive recipient of American military hardware, but as a co-constructor of the economic order that will determine who wins the AI century. The question for you is this: can a coalition of 13 nations coordinating across manufacturing, minerals, compute, and logistics actually build something fast enough and resilient enough to challenge an integrated supply chain that China has spent 40 years constructing? Or is this another well-designed alliance that moves too slowly against a competitor that moves without deliberation? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want to be the person in the room who actually understands what is happening in the Indo-Pacific, subscribe to this channel. We cover the moves the headlines miss. See you in the next one.